Have you ever had that feeling, that queasy, disorienting moment that just kills a VR session? Well, it's one of the biggest hurdles for virtual reality. So today, we are going to break down exactly why it happens, and even better, how science is getting incredibly close to fixing it for good.
If this sounds painfully familiar, listen, you are not alone. And that feeling, it is not a flaw in you. It's actually a feature of your brain's ancient survival hardware. It's a completely predictable biological response to a very, very weird situation. So how do we get a handle on this? Well, we're going to break it down into 3 parts. First up, we'll get into the biology of why you actually feel sick. Then we'll go over all the practical stuff you can do today to get your VR legs. And finally, we're going to look at the amazing tech that could make VR sickness just a memory. All right, let's start at the source. What is actually going on inside your head when you put on that headset and start moving around in a virtual world? So, scientists have a name for this. It's called cybersickness. And honestly, they've got it pretty much figured out. It all boils down to a major disagreement between 2 of your most important senses, what your eyes are seeing and what your inner ear, your body's balance system, is feeling.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It's a total sensory standoff. On one side, you've got your eyes screaming, "Hey, we are flying through a canyon at 100 miles an hour." But on the other side, your body, especially that little biological gyroscope in your inner ear, is telling your brain, "Nope, we are sitting perfectly still on the couch."
So why does that sensory fight make you feel so awful? Well, this is where something called the poison theory comes in, and it makes a ton of sense. For pretty much all of human history, the only time your senses would be this scrambled is if you'd eaten something poisonous. So your ancient brain makes a very logical jump. Alert, we've been poisoned, get it out. And that's what triggers the nausea. It's a defense mechanism.
Now, on top of that, there are a few technical things that can make this sensory conflict way, way worse. Stuff like a choppy frame rate creates this visual stutter that your brain just hates. Using a thumbstick to glide around is a massive trigger because your body feels zero of that movement. And that smooth, continuous turning, yeah, that's another big one that sends your brain into a spin.
Okay, so that's the problem. But the good news? You can absolutely train your brain to get used to it. Let's dig into how you can build up a solid foundation for comfort, starting right now. Listen, this is probably the single most important piece of advice you will ever get for VR. Building your VR legs is a brain thing. You gotta start with short sessions, like 10, maybe 20 minutes, and the instant you feel that first little twinge of weirdness, you stop. Take the headset off. If you try to push through it, you are literally training your brain to associate VR with being sick, which just makes it worse in the long run. All right, pretty much every modern VR game has comfort settings, and these are the big 3. You should absolutely use them. Teleportation and snap turning work because they break up the motion. It's not a continuous stream of movement, it's just instant jumps, which avoids that conflict with your inner ear. And vignettes, which kind of create a tunnel vision effect when you move, they just reduce the amount of motion data your brain has to deal with at once. And here are a few more little pro tips. Make sure your IPD is dialed in just right. It makes the image way clearer. The fan trick is my personal favorite. Having a little breeze on your face gives your body an extra physical cue that you're moving. And definitely start with stationary games where you're not really traveling around the world. And always, always choose a rock-solid frame rate over fancy graphics. Always. So all that stuff works great today. But what about tomorrow? This is where it gets really exciting. The next wave of tech isn't about just managing sickness, it's about getting rid of it at the biological level. Think about this for a second. This is the question that's driving all the coolest new research. What if the device itself could sense the stress signals in your body that happen right before nausea kicks in, before you're even consciously aware of it? Well, it turns out that's not science fiction. Scientists can already do this. By tracking some subtle biological signals, they can predict the onset of cybersickness with, get this, up to 98% accuracy. The tech literally knows you're about to feel sick before you do. That's incredible. So how on earth do they do that? Well, one of the main ways is by measuring something called electrodermal activity, or EDA. It's basically tracking microscopic changes in the sweat levels on your skin. As your body starts to get stressed out from that sensory conflict, your EDA changes. So just imagine a future headset with these sensors built in that could notice that change and automatically fade in comfort settings for you in real time before you even feel a hint of nausea. But the real honest-to-goodness game changer is this: Galvanic Vestibular Stimulation, or GVS. It's a totally non-invasive way to talk directly to your brain's balance center. You put these little electrodes on the bone right behind your ears, and a device sends tiny, completely unnoticeable electrical signals straight to your vestibular nerve. And this is where the magic happens. On the left, you see the problem we've been talking about all along. Your eyes say one thing, your inner ear says another. They're fighting. But watch what happens when GVS is turned on. As you start moving forward in a game, the GVS system sends a tiny signal that makes your inner ear feel that same forward motion. It basically tricks your brain into thinking your senses are in perfect agreement. The conflict just disappears.
And you know what the most exciting part is? This isn't some far-off dream. This technology is already well past the lab stage. Given the pace things are moving, it's totally plausible we could see consumer GVS accessories, maybe like a special headband or something, within just the next couple of years for under $100. This could be the thing that finally solves VR sickness for almost everybody.
So until that awesome future gets here, let's just do a quick recap of the most important things you can do right now. Keep your sessions short when you're starting out. Use teleportation and snap turning. Turn on those vignettes, get a fan blowing on you, and most importantly, please never, ever try to push through the feeling.
You know, when you put it all together, the era of VR sickness might genuinely be ending. When you combine tech that can feel what you're feeling with tech that can actually align your senses, you're knocking down one of the last huge barriers, opening up these incredible worlds to be as comfortable and natural as the real one.
So I'm really curious to hear from you all. What's your personal VR sickness trigger? Is it that smooth turning we talked about? A choppy frame rate? Or is there one specific game that always gets you? Let us know your experience down in the comments.